my snack bag. Who the heck? Who did this? Who the freak ate my snack bag?
Good morning. Whatever it is, wherever you are. I haven't done much of anything here yet. I'm gonna want a. Well, it's here. It's like, how many of these did I try? Okay, G Brazil, Keith Weaver. Oh, one of them had secret instead of secrets, or vice versa. Okay, and then this was actually cache stuff. I got a version of cache working. So technically I've only tested 2 of these, but most of the others I've had to throw out just because either they don't go the right direction, they're upload only, or it only does a certain command. We probably got all our data files in here somewhere. I don't even know if I want to go down all of these. I mean, one of them might work, but I'm already doing my own Docker image, so I could just add an S3 layer to it. So I think in any of these, we've got a specific Why did I have to add curl? Does S3 command use curl? Maybe it does? But why would I have to install it separately? Oh, that's for the GitHub, GitHub release thing. We're doing all that with just some basic commands. And then that's doing the remote copy. How easy config, but the other examples I've seen have been using these environment variables. Now, actions can be given env. Well, I can do commands that include these fields. So I guess the only question then is, would the logs, if that was just part of the command, would the log print that? This probably doesn't have much of a command in it. And that's actually got quite a lot going on. Yes, that just outright failed. This was the cache succeeded. Yeah, so if you just put it in the command, you might have a problem. Is there a way to, well, those are actually command line arguments, which itself makes it potentially work better as an action. Using variables and secrets, using environment variables. So then there's just other environment variables. Okay, so that's not creating and storing. Automatically redacts secrets printed to the log. Avoid printing secrets to the log intentionally. Name with env. Add an action. That's for an action. It doesn't say uses. Cache. Environment variable standing other supported by the target process. Well, there is an example. Oh, okay. So their example is you set a new end variable and then you use end syntax in the run command. So that the thing itself, or the command itself, will just have this, not the inline of it. Well, we actually need to have a Docker for this, so I guess I'm more familiar with using lt command personally, although most people seem to be using the, the AWS 3 client has a default Docker, which probably makes the commands easier to do. It was here, so we've got prereqs, which technically this is not a prereq for one tech. This is like one tech prereqs S3. No, I did have a push on this. So you could do this as labels. I know some repositories have like a whole bunch of wildly different things under different tags. I could even have like 2 Docker files in here since I'm specifying it anyway. And I've not gone back and tried to use this prerequisite from the other things. What are we currently doing with you? Oh, no, we'd not changed directories. So that's not specifying any tag at all. It doesn't really need to be a different repository. I have another windows open? No, I did not. Well, it's not necessarily this. It is... from... set OCD down there. Rex build. Not specifically tagging as that. So file. And then that's still the same build context because it actually doesn't matter in this case. Okay, that wasn't too bad. All right. This. I probably still got a bit of an S3 test here. All this changes this. So we have to be in there. It's not an action per se. You've got a bunch of run commands already. So okay. So we did have a checkout for our testing purposes. That basically is just the args to the command. So run. All right, and then end with these two things. And the bucket, I don't know, is all that secret. It was just a convenient place to put configuration. I guess for that purposes we could. And all these names are derived from the first package I tried. So all that stuff is set up. All right, and then we do just standard end variables. And in one of these packages, they kind of had the layout for it, although this actually makes no sense to me. It might be for wherever library use. So he's actually doing a command, and I could actually include a shell script in my Docker image. But I don't know that there's a whole lot of used to wrap that. Oh. Why are you doing shell minus C? Okay, there's access. Okay, so this is actually the thing that I was just using for this. And then this was supply args, which we unfortunately overwrote. So there's access key, secret key. Bucket. Do I have a console for you yet? Yes, but it was also running this. Oh, I just haven't checked in notes. Built-in S3 command. So we've got to do the whole Docker fetch thing now. Of course, some of the actions did as well. Oh, did I copy this and not get... Yeah, I forgot to put the tag on here. So that's just going to fail. Okay. Like, did I reload too fast? Or did it fail? Or did it fail too fast? Oh. It's a literal. Is it like a Python version thing? Specified bucket is not valid. Oh, you know what? There is a curly bracket that got left over there. is a literal. Do you mean, It's like it seems to proceed. It's a little bit worrisome when we have errors here. But you'd think it would have its own prerequisites down as far as like which Python version. And this is why I hate Git-based workflows a little bit, because every little tiny thing has to be a new published commit. Okay, yeah, there weren't a whole lot of files there. So it claims it ran. Let's see if we can get signed in here. What do we call that? Testing. All right, so that did upload it as a public folder. The command we gave was sync public to bucket. If we later do sync static, that would give us what we want. And yeah, we created that folder in our branch. So we are probably good to change that. I mean, it might still be useful to use this for testing purposes. I mean, we'll have to... Actually, if I set this up to use that as the cache, then I could download the files from my current build and have basically nothing to do. All right, so the things we need is basically this. And I think this will actually take over, well, what I do have to work out. And I might actually be able to use this. So this was a test upload. If I changed the bucket back and did a test download, I could work on getting the filters right, because it seems to be printing every file it does. All right, secrets. bucket. It never does show the old value, which is good. Okay, so the bucket thing should be set. So that was test upload. We don't... And that's just the arguments we give it. Test download. So this... we want to sync from bucket public from the actual bucket static. And if it works the same way downloading and uploading, then that would actually put it into the static folder of public. And what we need to look up is usage. Exclude equals glob. We do not want to download the PNGs again. And I think sitemap was in public. Oh. It runs on static and static edge. Well, baby steps. I guess I could sync it twice. That seems like kind of a waste. So as long as we're just thinking static, PNG is all we need. I still need technically the checkout. We're just running something. Or just I need files to upload. Okay. Public static. Oh. It goes into a temp file. So, this actually feels like it might be a little bit worse than the cache system we're using right now. I think what they do is they zip and then do one network thing. It does seem there's an awful lot of overhead in that. Well, you'd think something like S3 command would, if it was if there was an option in S3 to do zip files, that S3 command would kind of use that behind the scenes. So that works. Something I could test locally. Because you've got a static. So this would have to be static star to static edge. Invalid source destination. Okay, so it has to be an S3. It can't, because it can go local file system as a source and go local file system as a destination. But it cannot do local sync. I guess, what is it like? We do that to avoid re-downloading everything. Yeah. And we won't have all the images in there, which are a big chunk of it. Now, for download purposes, I could probably exclude the pretty too. Although I'm not sure if those would get recreated. Exclude PNG. It equals pretty JSON? No, I've already done that. No, this is downloading. And then we would come back and do another command that copied it over. That would get you a restore from the live source. Maybe. So cache the data. They've got one of the interesting things about the cache action is that that the actions can schedule like cleanup things. So the cache actions can specify this once. We have to do 2 steps. I guess this would be kind of static. Because that was cache static data. So you are going to go, let's see, for the cache, we were excluding sprites. This should only have to do this once. Because after the run, we should have the images there. We want to update the images if they need updating. Unfortunately, if this doesn't work, it's going to be a really long build. And I actually think that I might not want to upload the results until we've somewhat verified it's working. Oh, and we forgot. Actually, it's closer to this. Oh, your static to this public as static. Okay, yeah. From root directory, it is public static to public static edge. Oh, I did working directory for all run commands. So that's good for you. That's okay for you. It's not good for you. It's not good for you. S3 command is going to run from there. You're going to run from there. Try downloading. Actually, since it's a new environment, the copy is going to do the same thing as this thing could do anyway. That's the S3 window. I guess I could have the test S3 thing just do some gyrations on that, but we kind of need to test if the files we get do what we want. Oh wait, did I? No. Okay, wrong one. This check failed. What? What's a check? Feedback, please? No runner matching the specified labels. Oh, gosh. I guess it's a Docker image. So maybe that means that you could, like fork their runner. Well, they might not be willing to run that on their infrastructure though, if it didn't match. Or they might be using a private repository that only has their stock ones in it. Okay, so pretty JSON did not work. So that's a good thing to get out of the way, I guess. Now, since this is a sync, and at the moment we could probably actually just do like a get minus R. The way that it started out, starred there makes me think that they're actually looking at the values of secrets and blanking them out of the logs. One way to reduce the overhead of this might be to see if I can figure out my own has repository changed check. That might be a little bit tricky. File sync. When another repository creates a new release. The release tag. A repo scopes token instead of the default GitHub token. ID, set output, commit latest released version. If steps.get check.outputs.modify. Oh, interesting. Now, why does it have to be repo scoped? Oh, run git. On push paths. I think it would be better to use git status porcelain. Only the modified timestamp of the file has changed. The actual content has changed. Now, we got a problem. Because it's still exporting all the versions, even though we saw it do a whole lot of files. So we need to figure out exactly what it's checking to see what versions it needs to do. And then have some other kind of debugging about what we clone and what files it's looking for. I wonder if there's actually something different in static edge. So we've got objects.json. Okay, so static edge has unreleased. You do not. Let me just get a different context for this. No, not you. And we want to cd source for the most part, I think. Well, maybe it could be process. That says this is based on, well, that's unprocessed version. That's processor.process. Processor is a main processor. Why do you decide to do a version? Process version. Process.env and process version. There's no ambiguity possible here. Okay, so actually main process is probably what it's called. I guess it says a .process property. This is actually a global process property. This is populating versions, isn't it? It's populating versions. If it's doing unreleased, then yes, I could see there being new objects. Sprites, exporting versions is the thing. It's game data. Not fs exists sync, this not static dir path. Now, this is technically in static edge. I could sync preferentially to static edge. Now, it says it's doing this. I don't know that we've actually verified that it's doing this. What could we do? Is there a recursive argument? Recursive. Does that only go one level? Well, no, this thing doesn't necessarily have a whole lot. And that's going to be a whole bunch of node module stuff. So we definitely want to do this in like public or something. All right, so where is my S3 test? We haven't necessarily installed node modules, but still. Well, no, actually, we can say just ls public. Or maybe it's ls-msr public. I'm not sure if it's picky about order. And there is indeed. Oh yeah, and this one actually did the sounds because this was a full-fledged. Or we ran it at some point. Okay, we're on repository, although we have to update that at some point. What did I do to the Docker file? Oh, I fixed the pretty JSON. Because there was that whole is thing. Nope. Public static spawns. Public static versions. Actually, versions is the key thing here. Is there a limit on how much that public static edge sprites? Okay, yeah, I believe that. Is there a limit to how many lines it will put out? Oh no, it's weirdly ordered. $200. Hmm? Okay, so spawns has it all. Oh, you know what? Versions isn't something I need up there, but it's used locally by the processor. Exclude sprite. Have I not actually run this yet? Wait, public static. Oh, is versions only in static edge? Wait, where was versions? Public static versions. I'd swear this thing was running fine. Did I get it to not output that even though it's using it? All right. Where is... Actually, I guess I was technically using the... What was I doing with Docker? Mobile map. You do have a versions. Is versions what you were using? All right, so this we're not really using. Spawns. Oh, maybe it was versions and I tweaked it to be plus path. But the spawns were all there. The versions that are up there is something we could probably just clear out. That's like leftover. Or did I downsync this from there sometime? S3 command. Now, I had run into a problem before. I deleted the objects directory and it also got objects JSON. I don't think there's an issue with that here. And you've also got that. Okay, so now those are out of date, but that doesn't explain. So we've got public static, object spawns and sprites. I wonder if I have a path issue with, so that's looking at spawns version ID of static dir. Normally you run process. Well, I did tweak the run in directory, I think, and should keep it in the right directory. It's kind of the point of doing that. The question is, what is the format of this static dir? So that comes from game data. Main processor creates game data. This static dir. If edge dot dot. So it gets processor. Dot dot public static edge. Does that come from process? Main processors require dir name. Dir name is the name of the file, right? Versus the current working directory. So that should be fine. We have to do some remote debugging on this. And it was game data. Unreleased or version ID. So we've got two things here. We've got, what is the path? And does it exist? Well, now this is just saying save JSON. Well, export versions, it goes through all of that stuff. Versions not slice and not exists. Oh yeah, process. You know what else we should do? Oh, I went to the script. Actually, this is kind of want this, and the other one. So we do U. We copy. So I should be looking at static edge for part of that. All right, so all the downloads. Public static. Copy was fast. It's worrisomely fast. Public, static edge. Object spawn sprites, public static spawns. We're all the way up into the 300s. Public static edge. Spawns. Dir name, one tech process. So, okay, so that's the directory of that file. One nice thing about working with Docker locally is you can actually just go in and get a shell and examine the state at certain points. And like catch it right before or right after this command and see what the file system looks like. So we don't necessarily know what that is. Scam likely. Actions checkout. I mean, you could probably do a git checkout and be pretty close. If we were to simulate this in our little machine, we would just do the cd process npm install, make directories. I'd actually have to get all the keys available somehow. Okay, one tech process, dot, puts it at one tech, public static edge. So it's not able to detect that. Did I typo static edge? Because we have every reason to believe that those do exist. Public static edge. Oh, wait, public static edge static. Okay. I missed that. What? Public static edge sprite static. So the sprite is what we created. So that's why that's there. So the problem here is that the copy minus R, and I didn't look at it or it's a different version here. So we did this. I mean, this is actually closer to the command we're doing. But maybe this is a difference in different implementations of copy. Yes, there's no static folder here. The version of copy they're using will put it inside the named folder. Oh. There isn't a static, right? Public static spawns. Oh, this is a problem. I need that folder to be named that, but they're putting it inside that folder. And I can't test this locally. Well, I could test it in a Docker container that was like that. Any of these set to run? Or do we even have bash here? Oh, it's not spinning the Linux shell because of the mounts. I mean, actually, even this system is a version of that. You should have this mounted data. Now, I was using this as kind of an actual cache, but we can delete it, I guess. So if we do copy minus R static, well, actually, we're in We're actually in public. Do we even have man pages here? Minimized. There's a T option. Treat dest as a normal file. Target copy all source arguments into directory. No, treat dest as a normal file. I did that before back on one of the college computer systems. It copied a bunch of stuff and it like concatenated them all into one file. So it seems like it might be this. Sparse source files by a crude heuristic and corresponding dest files are made sparse as well. I have no idea what that means. Oh, if they're lots of zeros. Backup of source. All right, so they're doing a copy -t source dest or copy source directory. So copy source into directory, but it makes the directory if it needs to. Copy -t directory source, or multiple sources into directory. So the bare form is sources into directory. Copy source to dest. So it seems like capital T might be what we need. I guess first we need to verify if this does this. Oh, yeah, those Docker copies are nice and fast. Okay. Okay, so this is not the same version of copy. Because this is what we actually want. Oh. Here's a difference. The static edge directory already exists because we put the little git keep sprites in it. So I don't have to worry about the directory existing. So we would say static star into static edge. Try to be clear about that. Now, as far as the JavaScript changes, we saw that it was false. We now realize exactly why that's happening. Too many windows. It's the Docker. That's the map. Uh, uh, mm, my repository makes sure it exists, so that should never be an issue. It just sure seemed like fewer layers when I was publishing it. Maybe that's all the stuff that's in the base and Ubuntu image. Okay, so this is still a lot of files. The default cache option could potentially be more efficient here. I just think we're going to be uploading it anyway. Okay. Static edge spawns. Static edge sprites. I didn't put the A on there for the git keeps. Sad thing is that these sprites very rarely change, but they could change. I guess if you wanted to be fancy about it, you could try to like do some sort of hash of the original graphics. That would still involve a lot of file operations on them. Or you'd have to be somehow like looking at the like git last changed date or something like that. Maybe there's a way to say, has a file changed in such and such range? Okay. So at least we don't do all the versions. Which means it's probably safe to do an upload. Then we would just have to figure out how can we streamline triggering this so it's not doing all this work on every check. All right, we don't need file report. All right, so this does not exclude anything. We go from public static to bucket. Oop. And most of the time it shouldn't need to sync anything unless like the graphics converted a little bit differently. So that will probably be fine. How would we say? Oh, that's right. We had started researching that. All right, so I can perhaps commit this. I don't know that I need to run a test right now. So we've got using a repository or a file in a repository as a way to track that, which, okay, so we've got the if. In a second workflow, it only runs when it sees changes in, so this is separate workflow files. I was thinking it could maybe be build steps. Maybe build steps can potentially run in parallel. Webhook events. Events that trigger workflows. Schedule, manual. Webhook events. Anytime to check run it. It creates a branch or tag. So there's always the manual run, you just create a tag off the other tag. A third party provides a deployment status. Requests to deploy. Says to mark deployments with an error failure pending. Tooling, create deployment, deployment created. So there's tooling, there's third party, your server, deployment status, deployment status. So you'd have to have your own tooling to trigger it, I guess. When someone updates a wiki page. Okay. Project event. Private repository public. Request review. And I think the other thing pretty much said that it's not a anytime the watch event. Starring. Scheduled events, manual events. Check for modified files. Get the latest release version of what? So uses checkout. Oh, but it's also checking out this. Releases latest. That's actually the GitHub API. Using a JSON query. So that gets the latest version. We run a command. ID get just steps.getCheck.outputs.modified. Modified is not just a status of if that change. It is name equals modified. Get status porcelain and echo false or echo true. Oh, okay. So it was using... You've got this file checked into your repo. This updates it from updates the file, and then uses the git diff on your repo to see if it changed. I kind of don't like doing check-ins for every upstream change. Another close syntax. That's like the only reference to that. Check out upload, download, cache, GitHub automation. Set up different environments. Oh, HTTP client. We set up labels. Run GitHub actions locally. Okay, so this gives you the web interface. Docker and Docker. On schedule I get. Oh, and there's indeed act. Windows, okay, so we looked at this earlier. I think kind of lost track of it. Not found during Docker copy. Oh, that's right. This was... There might have been some issues with the Node version. Just like they're under. Okay. And some of our things have secrets, so that could be awkward for the streaming bit. List of file changes. This is, I guess I was hoping that the awesome actions might be a little bit more, well, I guess it's curated versus the 46 S3 commands. Linting. Monitoring. Pull requests, notifications, and the other kind of messages. Implement Docker. Deploy Lambda code to an existing function. Merge git repo. Modify repo file with actions. Push files to other repositories. So there's a seed here of this of the if, and maybe we could get more examples of that in the documentation, or maybe there's a way to just kind of abort the workflow if, because I might be able to set up something that does the git update and checks to see if it's updated. Oh, maybe instead of the repository, I could just have like a current version file on S3. And then we get the release versions, Swagger UI latest. Releases latest. Okay, so this is going off the releases API, which gives you a very definite latest release. We would not have that in the One Life data repository. We've got the git command for that, and it looks like we've got git available and run commands. So we could probably get latest tagged version into a file. We could either do some kind of comparison. Echo set output name. Okay, so you need to do the set output and then check in the next step. So you're using a get status to see if some file is different. I would either need some other way to check file difference, or I would need to like construct a path to that version on S3 and see if it exists. And we have to see if there is a way to like abort a workflow. I mean, I guess having a step that did something illegal would abort it. Might be nice if there was an official way to do that. Yep. I got into the browser context. Pull request. Cancel stale workflow runs for the current pull request. Cancel previous workflow runs. Cancel this build. So only run builds for the latest commits in the queue. Okay, so that's one option. And then, did I have anything up for the... Yeah, for you. Okay, so where is... That'd be general syntax. And that's creating actions. Reference. Events. Context and expression syntax. Uses if expression. Say an environment variable. More information about if conditionals. Jobs.jobid.if. Use the if it's a job. Oh, jobs.jobid. .steps. Okay, so you can have a conditional for an entire job. What would you put there? Well, it kind of went back to this one. So those are those contexts. Okay, so that was kind of jumping down to job, I guess. So that would have to be known at the start of the job. Now, there was a way to do dependent jobs. So maybe you would have one job that would go check the repository status. And you could skip the entire other job because it's like we have to get a Docker container. We end up restoring node modules. Maybe you could do the file checklist before you do that. Because it'd be nice to be able to get this to just kind of run on a schedule so it just updates. But it's like there's so much work in every run. That seems extraordinarily wasteful. So within some kind of environment, we need a way. So if we clone the repository, that could just save the process script from getting the repo. Does the checkout action work for everything else, or is it only this repository? Repository name actions checkout. Okay, so by default it is the GitHub repository, branch tag or shot checkout. Otherwise use the default branch. Oh, and then talking about repository token versus it's like maybe this is like a scoped single job token. Check out a different branch, check out head, check out multiple repos side by side. With path main, with repository, my tools. So that'll actually be useful if we start looking at client builds. Nested. Oh, path my tools. Oh, with path main. Oh, side by side. Nested. Okay. Token. Okay, so using a secret to get the secret to the repository. Open synchronize closed. Push a commit, use the built-in token. So we could use the checkout action to get that repository. I'd probably then have to use an ordinary git command to get that latest tag information. So assuming we got that as a file, what would we do with it? Either we would somehow sync that to our status, and just add that to our files. Or we could check for the well, not every version generates spawns. So that wouldn't necessarily do it. No, actually, it does. They're just sometimes empty. What do we actually produce for those? One tick, a whole map. I mean, I do that inside of there. Da, 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 da. And I should build the containers. This would be, is the upload set up for this to have an argument? Windows client upload. It is not. Okay, so these don't have it. Oh my gosh, it's actually doing, it's trying to do fancy file translation on the argument. For the shell. Don't really need a mount for this. All right. You should have the embedded. Actually, you don't have data version number. Will this be like binary version number? Because I know I do have to use that in the build process. I just forget what the names are. Too many files. One life game source. Okay, so we're not outputting it in this case. Well, okay, so that's doing patch version number, which that's patches master. But probably come from the same process. I guess I'm just not sure if this includes like the. Actually, no. Yeah, this is that, and these don't include like V's or anything. I think this is saying, yeah, eliminate anything that's not a number. Okay, so that would just be a number. So either we attempt to can get that number, we could either download a known S3 file that would have the version number or check for the existence of the version number. What does that look like? Would there be like any kind of success code on that? Would we... If we attempt to fetch a particular file, it would then have to like do an existence check on file. If we got a static version number, we would have to somehow compare the versions. Actually, does the expression syntax... workflow syntax? Well, that's workflow syntax. I need like expression syntax. So you've got the if expression. Do you have any kind of operators? Like, can you and multiple conditions? Can you compare equality? Literals. You can use Boolean number and all string data types. My null, my Boolean. Operators. Logical grouping, index, property to reference, not less than equal to, equal. So if I grabbed a file, I could do the git command to dump the version number into a status variable. I could either at, the environment might have curl. Because I really just want the file contents at that point. But you could fetch that file and then cat it. In worst case, comparing strings. Objects and arrays near the same instance. Contains, starts with, ends with. To JSON from JSON, hash files. There's probably, we could get like hash of the head of last time it ran. But there are going to be intermediate commits, and if we, that would make it run every time there's like pending stuff that hasn't been published yet. And none of the previous steps have been canceled. Will not run when critical failure. Getting sources failed. Even when canceled. Okay. Yeah, we actually do want to know when the last published version changed. So we fetch it, we get that, and what do we compare it to? Well, let's see, if we initially had no file there, it would run. we would still have we would download, we'd still have our cached files. And then the result would be that we would publish that last run version file. So do we just keep on using S3 test? And this was, I mean, it's probably pretty close. If we're going to use, we have to use our image if we're going to use S3. Which actually do the round trip checking, we'd almost have to have S3 to push it back. I think once we've got the test, we're okay. So I guess first of all, we have to know is, can we skip all of that stuff? Okay, so that's going to download our repository. We don't actually care about our repository for this. Although we are going to come back and use that. So this would be, do we have curl here? And you see, I might as well just use S3. Because that's what eventually we're going to use. So we want, this is going to be more of a get. S3 bucket, call it static. Oh, I'm actually going to have to publish that to see how this works. Oh, the existence of... see, that would just fetch it to data version number. And we synced, if we wrote data version number as just wherever... So that would just straight up fail. The git commands we use... Do I use data version? I use data version number in the server setup. Build server fetch latest tagged. Maybe not. Data version. So I routinely get it is what happens. We have... So I think it's actually possible to do... Do we need checkout here? Only to making sure we have some directory structure. All right, and then arguments to... Multiple repos. This would be nested. Yes, there's the name. uses actions with repository just run life data 7 path process path my tools. I'm assuming that's full path then. File report might actually be useful here. And then get version number. Well, actually, what was the example we had? Okay, so it's run echo with this special format. Run echo. Okay, and then here is, what is this? That's checking that command. This is inlining true or false into here. Oop. I'm not in insert mode. Oh, wait, does that? Okay, yeah, there it is. Git for each ref. Now, there's a question of, do we have set and which version is it? Because I've had issues with that. And I guess we're actually going to need something like this to be able to compare it. You downloaded that. You were going to be like, cat last version number dot text. And then I guess what this would, for now, we would just do something like, for a quick test, would be something like what is it? It's that. No, this is inline. Steps dot last version Name equals modified. So this is... if modified equals true. Steps.data version. This is probably going to be all kinds of debugging. Oh, I must not have put a, No, it's got a name. What doesn't it like? Why are you on... Oh, you're right. So I guess that syntax error is actually what confused it? I mean, I mean, failing that, we just have to nuke the entire thing and then step it back piece by piece to figure out where it went wrong. Wow, they're getting lots of new URLs these days. So if there's a syntax error, it parses as a push commit. No? Well, is there comment syntax? Workflow syntax. I guess that would be a YAML thing. So there's pound. Not a particular multi-line comment, no. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it ought to work. Okay, so it is something downstream of that. Oh, you know what you did? You re-indented. So that was correct, but then you over-indented. Okay, so that's still showing up with a label. That's still showing up with a label. Okay, so it doesn't like the checkout command. What did we do here? Is it possible I need some dashes here or something? We over-indented with. I was thinking of it a child of uses. Wow, that's a big mistake for. Flow file? No, I mean there's no. If you did. Okay. Bad indentation of a mapped entry. So you can go all the way into here to find out that there was a bad syntax. This is why I wanted to skip this initially, but it's like it was either that or figure out a curl thing just for the test. Okay, so test download failed. The I wonder if there's an option to not fail. And I closed that file, didn't I? I guess there's always like a and true or something. It's all CloudFront, verbose to bug. It did include stop on error. Maybe we don't want that for this command. Yeah. It'd be nice if there was I think this reruns with the exact same workflow. I don't know if there's any way to say rerun with the updated one. Okay, so that's that stuff. So it's still exit code 12. Yeah, probably just, what is it? Okay, so first of all, how do you read the exit code? So we can see they're doing it right. Dollar question. Okay. Echo 12. Is it true? No. Set an exit code. That's for the termination. All piped commands. How do I set? By executing exit in a subshell. So I would do okay. Assuming this is a full-on bash command. And that might make it certainly not cross-system compatible, because I think they do have like Windows runners and whatnot. Okay, it doesn't seem... Process completed with exit code 12. So I guess it just kind of because something exited with it. Well, it's well past lunchtime for me. So I think we're going to have to put this problem off to another day. That's it for now. Thanks to people who support me. Thanks to all the people who hosted me. I mean, under normal circumstances, this will be back on Monday. And maybe I can manually run the job to update in the meantime. We could try that out. So, yeah. Running a little late, and bye-bye.